My name is Rashawn Sullivan, and some of the work that I'm passionate about, or some of the things that I do, is I try to show people how to walk with purpose, because I feel like everybody is here on the planet Earth for a particular reason, and everybody got a gift, and that gift is inside of you. And I feel like, me personally, I have access to my own personal gift. So when I come around people, I tend to have a radiant light around me, so I try to show other people how to tap into that same ability, because I know that it's within them also.
We met in 2016 or 16?
Yes. Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about, or I can talk about it, but I from your perspective, when we met, under what circumstances, and kind of a little bit about that?
Well, when I first met you, actually I had just came home, and I was incarcerated for 17 years. So I was working at Southwest Community Center, and I met a guy named Raheem. And Raheem had told me about you, and he was like, hey, you need to meet this guy Solon. You got a wonderful story, you got a lot of passion behind you, and I think that if you connect with him, then, that'll be a great experience. So now we find ourselves, 6, 7 years later.
A lot of stories later, yeah. 6, 7 years, a lot of stories later. So, I know. I remember when he told me, he said, hey, you want to meet with this guy? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. We were at the Tech Garden, and we were talking about something, and it was the first time I'd met you, and then within 10 minutes, we hit some kind of subject about what had gone on and why you were, what part of your story you wanted to tell, and you got really emotional right off the bat. And I remember thinking you could just feel the compassion and the power behind what your story was. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first kind of moment where I'm like, okay, this is somebody who's a pretty serious person about their convictions. No,
definitely, especially about my story, or because we all do things that we may not be proud of at certain points in our lives. But me personally, I'm just heartfelt and taken back, or it just mean a lot to me anytime I talk about it, because crying in front of you or getting emotional in front of you is not the first time that happened. That happens to me with regularity, and it's not because I'm not healed from it. It's not even that. It's just that, I know how to go to a certain space that really means something to me, and I want other people to have that same experience, because, when tragedies happen and stuff, sometimes we just blow it over, and, you could do things what most people don't know, and, it'll be with you for a lifetime. So that's something that I actually done that actually sticks with me for a lifetime. So that's why it kind of touches me.
I remember 2016 seems like it was almost 10 years ago. That's a while back. That's crazy. You had just gotten out, and you were talking about doing the I Apologize Foundation at that time. Can you go into a little bit about what that was and what that was all about at that time?
I think when I got out in 2015, so I got out of prison after doing 17 years in March 9th, 2015. And what I really had on my mind was going back to the young man family whose life that I ended and apologizing to him. For whatever reason, while I was incarcerated, I became really remorseful and apologetic for my actions. So I wanted to get out and go back to the family and apologize. So my first take on when I got out, I had a plan, but my biggest plan was to go to the family and apologize. So that's kind of where all that got created from, was the fact that I was able to do it, go back to the visual area where it happened at, with community members, with the young man family, and it turned out well. So the whole apologize thing was just created off of that, and then it became I inserted myself into the community because people wanted to know, who was I? And I was just letting people know, as it pertained to violence and stuff like that, sometimes out of ignorance we do things, and if that does happen, and you find it in your heart to have redemption and remorse and stuff like that, then you can come back in an apologetic way. So that's kind of how that came about. And then I just started just being a voice in the community as just a emblem to say I represent change. And in a like apologetic way.
And you wrote a book. I mean,
Yeah.
when did you write that? When did you finish that from when it was published?
So I was like writing the book like while I was incarcerated, but I didn't know that I was writing the book because like I used to like do journals and stuff like that. So while I was incarcerated, I used to like do journals and just like diaries and measure myself because like you could be incarcerated for a lengthy amount of time and not really see your growth. So I was able to see my growth through dialogue. And I didn't know that I was writing a book until I actually got out. And then somebody asked me, did I want to write a book? And I'm like, man, where would I start? But then I remembered that I had all this information in my diaries. So I just kind of like went back to all that information and then just extracted it out and compiled it. And, that's how the book was created.
I remember when I first started hanging out with you, like some of our conversations were like, I'd ask you questions and then you give me an answer. I just smile. I was like, that's like a quote, like that in itself. Like you get quiet for a minute and then you give me an answer that I would think that's an intense answer. So do you feel like you captured a lot of that in your book, like the way you think and the way that your mind works?
I wouldn't say I captured it all because like in my current state, because like when I wrote the book, I kind of like just got out. So I was going through like a lot of like the transitional phase. A lot of people didn't know that because they would see me speak or they would see my appearance or feel my energy. But I really was like a rookie in a sense, like out here. Like, I don't know, it was just like funny. So my strongest quote, so just the information that's really in me, I don't really think that I got it all out like in my first book. It ain't the transitional person that I am now.
So before we even get to like the present day, everything, can you tell me like where you're from, what street you grew up on, and a little bit about what that was like?
So my name is Rashawn Sullivan. I'm from Syracuse, New York. I was born and raised. I grew up on what they would call Cannon and Corning. That's like on the south side of Syracuse. But I migrated kind of like all throughout Syracuse, like on the early age. So like I grew up, like I lived on the south side, the east side, the west side. I lived on all sides of Syracuse. But my main strong point was like on the south side, and where I was really raised at was on like Cannon and Corning, Cannon and Newell. And that's how I became a part of like, something that was classified as like a gang, which was called Brighton Brigade. But we really was just friends and we kind of like grew up together and stuff like that.
Can you tell me, you told me one time that you were in and out of, like the government or the system throughout your entire childhood. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, I don't know, like I always been in trouble. Like it seemed like, I don't know, like negativity always kind of like followed me like since I was like a young kid. So like my first encounter was with the law was like when I was like 8 years old. And then I went to Hillbrook, like at 9, and because I did wrong. I robbed a bike store, Meltzer Bike Store on Erie Boulevard in Syracuse. I robbed a bike store. They ended up catching us the next day, and I went to Hillbrook for that. And then maybe about, I don't know, 8 months, a year later, I went back to Hillbrook for robbing Colonial Laundromat. I got caught doing that. And then I was placed on probation and stuff like that. And then when I turned 11, I violated probation because I was playing a game called Knockout, and I had an elderly man in Western Lights. The McDonald's at Western Lights is still there to this day. But the police was right there. Like, as soon as when I hit the guy, the police saw me hit the guy and chased us and caught me. I'm not a good criminal. I get that. Now, but for violating that probation and hitting the elderly man, I was sentenced basically to like 4 years in DFY. At that time, it was called Division for Youth, which is DFY. Now it's called OCFS, which is Office for Children's Service, something like that, yeah. But yeah, I actually did, I was in juvenile detention center from the age of 11 till I was 15.
What do you remember most about that time period, being a kid growing up? Like what memories do you have, feelings do you have about those memories?
Which ones? Like
just your childhood, yeah.
don't know. I had a quick childhood. Like my childhood was fast. I was exposed to stuff early on. Like I was exposed to violence, drugs, just a lifestyle that landed me, in the placement. Cause I don't know, nobody child should be in placement at 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old. Like, and I don't blame like my parents or anything like that, but it was like a rough start. Like that's what I would say. I would say that I had a rough start. That's what I do remember. I remember having a rough start. Like far as bright spots or anything like that, my brightest spots always was probably like from like what people told me like at a personal level, like, cause I always was like athletic, like far as like playing sports or, just having the ability even like as a child to go out and do something courageous even though it was wrong. So people always acknowledge that. So that always kind of like gave me a feeling that I was somebody, even though at that point I was nobody, but I always felt confident in myself.
At what point and what time, how old are you, and can you kind of walk me through what happened when you finally went in for the 17 years, like what that was?
Yeah, so I got out of placement when I was 15. So when I got out, they put me in some type of program called like EOC, and it was kind of like a little probationary type stage or whatever, but they ended up getting me in high school. They ended up getting me in the Corcoran, because I was an athlete too, so I played basketball. So I ended up going to school, probably for like 6 months, 7 months. I started on the team, the JV. I was really good. I was the best player, like really on the team. And I probably was like the youngest too. Nobody really knew me because, well, they knew me, but they didn't know I played sport because I was in placement. So I just kind of like popped up out of nowhere or whatever. So I dropped out of school, like then I started selling drugs and stuff like that, being in the neighborhood and being around people that was doing the wrong thing. But we all grew up with each other, so we ain't really looking at it like that. And I probably was out like a year and a half. I wasn't even out that long. And then I ended up making a poor decision, which resulted in me ending a young man life. And that's how I ended up getting the 17 years. And then I went to prison from the age of 17 to I was 34. So I got out when I was 34, and when I got out, I had already had over 21 years of incarceration.
What was prison like?
Oh man, prison is an abnormal environment that people try to turn it into normal. Like the stuff that goes on in prison, like you can't imagine that unless you was actually in there. Like the stuff that I done seen happen in prison, like I have not seen it happen nowhere but prison. Like literally, I done seen a person stabbed everywhere except the bottom of their feet over a card game or over a drug habit. Like a person really get hurt. I done seen a person actually get killed in front of me over a broomstick with a knife. Like people really holding them while people stabbing them. Stuff like to me, that's abnormal. But I was also fortunate though to see the bright side of prison too, because it really offers a lot, like at the educational level, because all you really got is like time in there. So you got enough time throughout the day to really just sit in your cell, be to yourself, and if you really like searching for change, if you really want to make a difference in your life in that present moment, you can do that. Like prison offer that space. So for me, I ended up turning it into like a whole educational type of environment. Like I went to college and everything while I was incarcerated. I was in Cornell University, and I did that for like 2 years. And the only reason why I stopped going to college in prison is because I got released. And I was also like a certified peer counselor, a facilitator for ART, which is anger replacement training. I was a facilitator for substance abuse. I mean, prison was a wonderful experience for me, even though it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. It was very rough. A lot of dark days, a lot of lonely nights, a lot of hardship, a lot of times where I wanted to give up. But it showed me how to, not so much preserve myself, but get over the hurdles. because a lot of times we deal with life challenges, life obstacles, and people always ask themselves, like, why me or whatever. Like, I really feel like prison was not a place where, like, I was arrested. I really feel like I was rescued. Like, it was really like a safe haven place for me, and I really got my life together while I was incarcerated. So sometimes I do recommend that, you know what, a person might have to go to prison and get their life together, because if you really want it bad enough, you could get your life together while you're in prison. So for me, it had its highs and lows, but in the end, it was a beautiful thing for me because I learned a lot.
I feel like it's a powerful statement because you're saying, like, in jail, you saw killings and it was rough, and yet at the same time, it kind of saved your life. Can you kind of go into that and, like, explain that mindset and why that was necessary?
Because I mean that mindset becomes necessary because, like, and it's not just so much the violent stuff that you see in there. Like, you see people literally lose their mind, like whether it's off of medication, because a lot of people start messing with medication because they're stressing over their case. Like, I was around people with 50 years, 100 years. I had 17 years. I had 17 years to life. So I was around people who had 12 and a half to 25, 20 to life, 25 to life, 40 to life, 50 to life, natural life. Like, that's the environment that I was in, because when I first came up, I was 17. So they put me in an environment where everybody had time. And not everybody is responding in an honorable way, a respectful way. Some people is just giving up. Some people just saying, like, hey, this is just what it is. And you're running into that person. So when he meets you, that's the type of time that he meets you on. So, yeah, people done lost their mind because they trying to escape reality through drugs. People done lost their mind just because they get lost in time. They get institutionalized. Once you be in there for 10 years, 15 years, you're disconnected from the world. That's just the reality of it. So you could really just know nothing but prison stuff. So it ain't just so much of, like, the violent stuff that I saw. It was like a lot of, like, people not discovering themselves, and that's what motivated me. Nah, I ain't want to, like, do that in prison because I seen a lot of people not make it. And I always told myself, like, I got to do a lot of time, but I'm not about to sit here and die in here, because it's easy to get like that. It's easy to give up, especially if you don't got family support. Like, I ain't had a family support or whatever. I kind of did all my time by myself. Like, that's just the truth. I probably had, like, 4 visits out of 17 years. So my struggle was a little bit different, but there's a lot of other guys that's in there and their struggle is the same. And some of them give up. Me, I just said, you know what? I'm gonna get an education and I'm just gonna put forth my best foot for better days and not give up. And that's kind of like what I did. I just ain't give up.
What does that take? Like, going back to those days, nights, weeks, years, like, what does it take to push through when grown men are not able to do it and you're there as, like, a kid pushing through?
I'm gonna be honest. You gotta know God. Like, seriously. And, like, we all got different beliefs. Like, probably what, like, a person think of God, but I just believe that there was a greater force out there. And I believe that if I did right, then, like, I could connect with that. And then good things can happen to me. Because I was always, like, up under the notion, too, like, all my wrongdoings, like, I wasn't fully conscious of that. So I never really classified myself as, like, a foul person or a person that likes to do wrong. I never viewed myself like that. But I just got to the point where I was like, man, if there's a God that exists, like, reveal yourself. Because I know, like, a lot of people say, or I heard that a lot of people call on God. So I was just in a space like where, you know what, I'm calling on God. But I also made a commitment that if you are real and you do reveal yourself to me and you get me out of this, I do the right thing when ain't nobody looking. And I'll be a servant to humanity. And that was kind of like my contract. And I accepted that, and then, I don't know, after that, like, things just started happening for me. Like, I started growing. I got my high school diploma. Like I said, I went to college. I started doing a lot of independent studying, like a lot of self-help books, Think and Grow Rich, The 12 Universal Laws of Success, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, A New Earth. I started reading like a lot of spirituality practices. I started doing like meditation, yoga. I started fasting, praying. I literally just changed. So that's how I got over it. And after you do 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, 14 years, 15 years, the only thing that's going to get you over the hump after that is God. Because it's too much. Like, man got power, but some things he just got to call on the greater power. And it don't mean that he don't got power. It's just that there is things or something that's out there that's greater. And that's what I did. Like, I called on the greater force, and I was, like, answered. And I believe in that now.
So you come to year 17, and you come back to the world here.
Right.
Can you tell me, what was it like? 17 years is like a long, unbelievably long time, and you were a child when you went in, and you're a grown man, you come out. Like, what was that transition like?
A lot of people ask me that. And I'll be honest with them, like, I never knew the world before I went in. Because I was incarcerated, like, when I was 11 until I was 15. Like, I did that straight through, 4 years, boom. And then I was out for like a year and a half, and then I did the 17 years. So I really never had no real experience on life. So I never really had nothing to measure. So when I got out, I kind of was like a free spirit. I wasn't, like, I was afraid, but I knew that I can do it. I knew that I could stay out because I made it in prison. But I was nervous. Like, I really didn't, like, some things was different because I remember that it wasn't a cell phone. I remember that. And my friend, his name Prince, he live in Virginia now, but he brought me a phone. It was a Galaxy 4. This was 2015. I remember this. And he gave me the phone or whatever. And I didn't have the number was in the phone, like, so like when you call it, so he called me on the phone or whatever. And I just picked the phone up and just was trying to answer it like it was a regular phone. And he was like, nah, yo, you gotta swipe. That's when he realized, and I realized, that I really don't know what's going on out here. Just through like the digital world, I definitely was lost at that. Like, I ain't know nothing about none of that. Like, I never heard of Facebook. I never heard of YouTube. I never heard of Instagram. I never heard of none of that. Like, when I left, none of that stuff existed. So when I came out, all that stuff was out here. Or email and stuff like I never knew none of that. I didn't even know the importance of a password. Like, all my stuff initially when I got out, people hooked that up for me. Like, my email, my social media, all that. I never even knew that you needed a password for all that stuff. I would just get on it and do it, not even knowing what it was. That's how lost I was.
Was there like how long was it before you felt like you had a decent foundation, like 2 feet on the ground? Like, and you were starting to understand the world that you had come back into?
Years. Like, I just now started, like, figuring it out. Like, my eyes are now just, like, settling. It's different. I don't know. I would say that it is different for, everybody. But when I got out, I was 34. I had over 21 years of incarceration. So I don't really got a lot of experience as it pertained to living. And living is something that got to be experienced. So I'm experiencing now how to live because I have years now out here. But my initial, I would say like 5 years was ups and downs, like seriously. And I say that like, and I share this story, like, I remember one time, like, I hit the number for like 50,000. And I had the money actually on me all the time. And I spent the money in 6 months. Actually, I had more than 50. It was kind of like around 60. Because I was like doing, like, and I hit this from a number, like just playing numbers or whatever. But that also showed me too that like I don't have experience or whatever. So it was like up and down for me. Now, like, I'm starting to, like, my eyes are starting to settle, and I'm starting to see how I could fit into the, not, society, but just into, like, the greater things that life have to offer. But, yeah, it took me at least 5, 6 years. I only been out for 8. It's not a long time, but, like, 5, 6 years.
Do you think that, of all the time I've known you, I've never thought this, but like from what you're saying, do you think that you're saying that life almost kind of began after prison for you, but you almost lived 3 lives. You were a child, and then you had life kind of begin in prison, and then you had life re-begin when you got out of prison, and you think so differently, and you see things differently than most people see them. Do you think you've always been like that, or when did you kind of discover that? And do you think that plays a role in the fact that you're saying you just kind of, when you came out of the prison into the world, like that was kind of being reborn in some ways, but you see the world differently? Does that play a role in that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like the 3 stages that you say, like I really went through the 3 stages. Like that's really the truth, like the caterpillar stage. Like I really was in the caterpillar stage, because like when you look at a caterpillar, you got to look at the qualities of it and what it's exposed to. Like a caterpillar is exposed to danger because it's on the earth, it's on the ground. Like you literally could walk by and step on a caterpillar and that's it. It can't defend itself, none of that. A lot of times it don't even see the danger, but it's under danger. So like that's how I was. And then I went to prison for the 17 years, or with the 4 years, but I did a total of 21. So that's kind of like the cocoon, but the cocoon is cracking because while I'm in the darkness of the cocoon, like I'm working on myself and stuff like that. And now I'm out, it's like I'm going into the monarch stage, the butterfly stage. And I know that because like it feel good to be released. It's like when the dog been in the house for, I don't know, a week or 2, and then the family come back and you let the dog out and the dog just run. That's kind of like what it is. But it's a good feeling. So, yeah, it's definitely a 3-stage thing, but I think my thinking like this comes from being in the cocoon, because that's where you're going to get your most deepest thoughts, huh? You're going to get your thoughts in the darkness of your own mind. Like, your greatest thoughts are not going to come from outside of you. It's going to come from within you. So while I was going through all that adversity, all that pressure, all that hardship, all that, that's kind of like where my character was truly being shaped and molded. But I always had like a flaring type of, bright type of personality. Like people always saw that. but they would highlight it sometimes like in a negative way. They'd say something like, "You're gonna go to jail for a long time." Anybody that has the ability to go for jail for a long time has the ability to do something great too. So that's how I look at it now that I'm older. Like, people could see something in you, but sometimes if it's being displayed in a negative way, then that's the viewpoint that they get. But nevertheless, it's still some form of like high energy. But I would say being incarcerated and going through hardship and stuff like that is when my character was really shaped and molded, because it kind of was really like life and death. Either I'm going to prevail or I'm not.
Well, let me ask you this, actually, to bring it back. When you first got out, what did you really start getting yourself into? What was like, you hit the road, what was that, what were you doing on that journey?
So like when I got out, I was just like doing different stuff in the community, because like I was really big on like talking about violence and violent prevention, and also being a voice for people who may have committed crimes and feeling like they can't do right after that. Like, you'd be surprised, a lot of people are ashamed of what they did, and they still in prison, just minus the bars. So a lot of people used to tell me like, "Yo, man, I appreciate you, speaking on stuff like that, because it allows me now to speak about, the things that I may have done wrong to myself or somebody else." So I was doing stuff like that. I was doing events for like mothers or family members who lost their loved ones to violence, because I wanted to also, just let them know that I appreciate them too, because sometimes people lose their loved ones, and, after you lose your loved ones, it's kind of like, that's it. You got to figure it out from there. So I just wanted to let them know that, like, somebody is thinking about you, even though, you may not receive that warm love or gesture every day. Don't think that ain't nobody aware of, like, what you probably going through or whatever. Then I did some things in the community, like where I work for Onondaga Earth Corps, which is like environmental people, where I planted trees for people that lost their lives to violence. I got with their family members and we went around the city of Syracuse. Because I was kind of like taken back by like the memorial sites. Because what I noticed was like a lot of liquor bottles and, just unwanted debris and all type of stuff just out there. And I just feel like that area should be a little bit more sacred, especially if somebody lost their life right there. But the way that we glorify it or the way that we acknowledge it, I don't know, it just seemed like the way that we did it, violence still occurred around it after it even happened. Like, you would go to a memorial site where a person died at a year later and then somebody shooting it up. But I associate that with a lot of times just the way that it's set up. So I was trying to like do some things with them where I was like creating like a memorial garden, stuff like that. I was going to school too. I even went back to school. I went to OCC. And actually I had like a 3.4 GPA. I went to school for 2 years. I had one more semester left. I got 48 credits right now to this day. And the only reason why I really stopped going is because I didn't want to get the COVID shot. So I basically stopped going to school. But I literally was in there with a 3.4 GPA with a whole nother semester left. I was doing that, and I was just being a positive voice in the community.
Do you ever think about going back there just to close that out? Because I remember that time you were there all the time, like just getting that and making it happen.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go back this year to finalize that. Yep, I'm gonna finalize that this year.
Do you ever like wonder to yourself what it is in you for so much of your life being shown so little comfort and warmth and love that somehow it's still in you to want to give that to other people in such abundance? Like, where do you ever like contemplate that?
Not really. I just think that it's something that I do naturally. So anything that I do naturally, I know that was something that was given by God, or it's something that was already instilled in me before I knew it was there. And that's what they say. They say, like, your gifts are inside you. And I feel like that's one of my gifts or whatever, to be genuine and have a good heart. Because in this day and time, like in the world, like people don't got good hearts. It's a lot of evil on the planet, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. A lot of people got a lot of black hearts. It's a lot of black hearts out here. So in a time like now, and just like after everything I done been through, like not having support, growing up by myself, being lonely, but that's not my character. That's not what I mimic or exemplify, you know? So I kind of feel like in a lot of ways that protects me and prevents me from being like a mean person or a negative person, because I got a good heart. And I feel like that's like the fourth, I don't know, like it's like they call it chakras. And the fourth chakra is like the heart. And that's where like people who operate from that place tends to push a lot of love out into the universe. So for me, I think that I'm one of those people. Like even though I didn't receive a lot of love growing up, I still know that every human being needs love to evolve. So I put myself just in that line of walk but I do it naturally, so I know that, you know, God got me.
You work at Hillbrook right now, and you're doing like extraordinary work that's highly successful. Can you go into kind of what, for the people who don't know, what is Hillbrook and what is your role? What have you been doing up there that has been working and kind of more successful than a lot of other things going on to try to deal with some of the issues in our world?
Oh, so Hillbrook, that's my dream job, like seriously. Hillbrook, because I was a resident there before too. So to be able to come back there and now be an example for other young men that, you know, basically been or going through the stuff that I went through, like that's a blessing. And they always say, like I always heard this stuff, like if you ever enjoy doing something and all that, it's not considered work. Like I heard all this stuff before. And that's what it really is. Like I really know that statement is true now. Like I really work in an environment where I really love that job. And for me, it's about showing the residents in there how to walk with purpose while they're incarcerated. Like I've been there 3.5 years. I done seen close to 200 years given out. That's crazy. Like I done seen a lot of time given out. And, you know, sometimes I'd be looking at these residents like, and they be reminding me of myself, because they be naive to the whole process, to the whole court process. And that's how I was. I didn't know what was going on. When it was all said and done, I just knew that I was sentenced to 17 years to life. I didn't understand the language in the court or none of that. So that's what I do now. I help them interpret the language. I show them how to walk with purpose while they're incarcerated. I let them know, like, you know, I can't determine your fate. Like, I don't know what it is in store for you. But I do know that if you do the right thing, when ain't nobody looking, or if they are looking, then you can overcome it. I do believe that you can find your purpose while you're incarcerated. I do believe that, you know, nothing in life happens, like, to you. Everything happens for you. So, like, this is a situation that's happened for you. So that's what I teach to them. That's what I tell them. I just remain, like, optimistic. I just keep a positive mindset, and that's what I bring to them, because they incarcerated and they're young, and a lot of them is going away for a long time. So how do you get through to a young man who feel like his life is over? I just realized that, you know what? Compassion, love, sympathy, empathizing, and being a brother when a man is in distress, those things could, you know, get a man over his own journey, or over the hurdle in his own journey. And you never know who that person could turn out to be. You never know who you're talking to. So I just treat everybody like they're a representative of God in the flesh, especially residents, because I know that if they ever get their life together, then, I mean, they really could be like trailblazers and really make a strong impact, not only in their personal lives, but in other people's lives. So, like, that's kind of like what I'm doing there. I also do a program called I Apologize, where I work with, a drama department from Syracuse University. It's called Building Company Theater. And, we go in there. And it's kind of funny because, like, a lot of the stuff that I did while I was incarcerated, that's what I do in there, like skits, role plays, because I believe that you could program the spirit. Because a lot of people got conditioned reflexes, meaning like residents. If you say something to them, they program just to respond a certain way in violence. So, like my book, which is called I Apologize, I take sceneries out of that and create skits and role plays, and then we reenact it. And just to give the resident a chance to do like critical thinking, give them an opportunity to look at the right and the wrong in the situation, and just how to think your way through things, because it literally took me 2 seconds to get 17 years. That's how fast it is. It's 2 seconds. So I let them know that. Don't do nothing. That's 1 second, but it could cause you pain and suffering for a lifetime. Because they don't be knowing. They fast paced. They got a lot of energy. So, I just be like a support there. And then I just bring the people from the outside there, yoga instructors, stuff like that, because I believe, just healing of the body and the mind, meditation. And then I work with you, like doing like the mitigation reports, and that's getting residents on camera, getting the information to the DA and the judge, because that's like kind of like a defense lawyer position, just to highlight the human side of the resident, because like I said, I would never judge nobody, especially not nobody that commit a crime or residents or anything like that, because I did. But I'm a changed man today, so I'm not big on saying, oh, you did this and you just a wrong person. Nah, it's not like that. Like, some people will really learn from what happened, and then some things, well, all things I believe happen for a person for a greater good. That person just got to figure that out. It's like math. It's like integers. You could turn a negative into a positive. You have to find that formula, but it's definitely there.
Well, and all these kids at Hillbrook, they're all 18 and younger, correct?
Yep.
It's interesting when we were doing those interviews, you said that most of them, they come in and within the first couple nights they break down because they're not used to it, and then when you're able to have a one-on-one with them, it's the first time that they kind of really understand any degree what's happening. Can you tell me what is not being understood by the powers that be, or all these initiatives that try to stop gun violence or youth violence or whatnot, that they're not understanding about these kids that are getting these kids into this violence in the first place?
I don't know, maybe they know, maybe they don't know, but I think like the driving force behind why they do what they do, like a lot of this stuff is just internal. Like, they're programmed at a chemical level. Like, you gotta think, right? People in general could be programmed. Like, you could program somebody to do what you want them to do. In this case, these young men, they live in a death culture. This young man done heard 100 songs, and all of them is talking about death. All of them is talking about violence. This young man done seen his friend get killed. And then he goes to the funeral. Then he goes to the repast. They're having a good time, but they're listening to music that promotes, hey, you better go back and you better do something about that. So that's one area where they're getting this information from. Then this is just through music. Then they're actually in the environment where this stuff is happening. That's another where they're getting this information from. So these people really chemically imbalanced. They're programmed to go out there and do that because in a certain culture, in a certain lifestyle, violence is right. You don't get your stripes. You're not official. You're not a man until you kill somebody or you go to jail for a long time. So it's an upside down kingdom. We've been miseducated. We've been mistaught. So you trying to tell somebody who see his manhood through violence because he don't have no other image. He don't got no father figure in his life. So the information as it pertains to the deaf culture is downloaded within that person's subconscious mind. You got the conscious mind, you got the subconscious mind. Sub means under. So this information is taking place outside of this young man's awareness, but yet he will do the same thing that's on a Lil Durk song. And I'm not bashing Lil Durk, I'm just saying, at the end of the day, these people will live out that. Because once the music get to going, the drugs get to going, they find themselves in the right space, and they'll live it out. And most of them don't even really know what they did. And even after they sentenced to 15 years, they still don't realize what they did. That's why they got a thing called raise the age. And a lot of times that's dealing with, in some parts of it, you know, the cognitive thinking, the brain development, because they saying like, hey man, the brain is not developing until you like 28. So these people are not really making these decisions from an adult mindset. But the powers that be will handle them like they knew everything that they was doing. And I know that because they did it to me. I really didn't know what was going on. I really didn't know what I did. And I didn't have nobody to tell me what I did. Nobody really said like, yo, that was wrong, or nobody really said like, yo, this is how, you know, like 17 years gonna be, or you finna go do 17 years, like you gonna have to get your life together, because like nobody gave up no information. It was just like, hey, it happened, you gone, and that's that. So a lot of times when people do stuff, especially when it's, you know, at a high magnitude like that, people just write you off because they feel like, you know what I'm saying, like you done did something to that degree, like you less than a human now. Now they trying to classify you as like a 3/5 of a man. And that's how they handle you. But I, you know, think that the powers be, like, you never know. Like, I don't think that they really be knowing who they really dealing with. Because like a person like myself, what if you would have kept me in there forever? Then I wouldn't even be a voice. Like, I really got people who can come forward and say that I changed their life. So you never, like, know who you, and I just feel like a lot of times they don't know who they dealing with, and they don't know the psychological effects on it, how people just do stuff because like they just chemically imbalanced. They done seen it so much, they done became so intoxicated off of it now that now they just do it. And it ain't even no, like that's why I say it's a conditioned reflex. They just doing bah, or whatever, they intoxicated off of ignorance.
When you're with these kids and like you have a moment with them where you feel like you've reached them to some degree to have an understanding of what is going on and what they've done, like what does that look like when one of these kids has one of these moments?
It's an aha moment. That's when you can see the light turn on. See, nobody sees that. The judge ain't gonna see that. The DA ain't gonna see that. The lawyer ain't even gonna see that. The person, mother, I've seen that light come on in people and their mother have not seen it. Their father have not seen it. These young men that had conversations with me that they have not even had with their mothers and fathers. So I get a chance to see when the light come on or whatever. And that's like, I don't know if a person ever, I don't know, like you had a car and it wasn't working and then one day it started working. and now you can get to work. It just feels good. So for me, when I see the light turn on, I feel good because I know that, man, your light is on, then you could be saved. Because I'm a fisher of men. Like, I believe in that. I believe that I'm here to, be an assistance to humanity and help save the lives of the youth. So when I go through that process with them and they turn in that leaf and, they coming into the realization, that's once they go through the process. Because I'm not here to make you acknowledge any wrongdoing if you didn't do it. But if you did it, then you got to acknowledge that, because I'm not really with supporting anybody if they're not willing to make amends if they've done wrong. So if you're at that space and at that point, and then you come through, then you really stepping into the realm of now becoming an angel and getting your wings. So for me, it's just, it's really that, knowing that the light is on and now that person has the ability to get his wings and become an angel on earth.
Do you think that there's a way to reach these kids before an act of violence that sends them into the system for decades occurs, or is there a possibility to head that off, and if so, what would that be?
The harsh reality is this: you can't save everybody. I learned that. You can't save everybody. So some people just ain't gonna make it. Some people gonna get it now, some people gonna get it later. As an individual, if you trying to be that vessel for these, because you dealing with a culture where, like, these young men, they so programmed. Like, when you got Facebook, when you got Instagram, when you got YouTube, these are powerhouses. That's what you're going up against. Most people feel like they can't even get 5,000 followers. Do you know how many followers Facebook has? So when you start looking at power or what has influence over somebody, you basically saying it's you versus Facebook, because Facebook got his mind. Instagram got his mind. YouTube got his mind. All these little different type of platforms that is promoting low vibrational activities got them. You got people going viral for hurting somebody. That's what they mimicking. So you trying to get a person from that grip. I believe the only thing that could get a person from that type of reality is their purpose, their dreams, and some money. If you can't show these young men how to become entrepreneurs, because a lot of them don't even really want to work, but if you show them how to work for itself and he could generate some type of money off of it, they're more inclined to do that than telling them, hey, man, just go get the job. Because the job seems kind of like boring. It seems like, even though, we all may have to work at points in our lives to get to where we're trying to go, but with the youth, a lot of them is into this new world where you got to think. You could be 17, 18, 19, 20 and be a multimillionaire. Whereas the 80s, early 90s, people going to college for 8, 9, 10 years to try to get this. These young men have kind of like closed the gap and done things at a more quicker speed. So a lot of these young men, like, they spirit is kind of like in the space where you got to put them and give them opportunities to where, like, they really could be like entrepreneurs or change their life. Other than that, if you can't provide them with a way out, it ain't gonna work, because the environment is gonna get them. So I just feel like showing them how to be an entrepreneur, putting them in a better space of like a business mind, and being able to let them know and show them that there is a way out, but being able to prove it and not just talking about it. You got to be able to give them some type of platform. You got to be able to show them that, yo, the grass is greener over here. It can't just be a lip service type of thing, and you have to be able to put them in position. You have to want to, like, literally turn them into a boss, basically.
You're working on a second book right now, so can you talk a little bit about this second book you're working on and kind of how it ties into Hillbrook and where you're at today?
So the second book is called Living Life Twice, because, like, that's basically what I'm doing. I'm, like, living life twice. So, like, for an example, and this is documented in the courts. Like, I literally threw a fit in the courts. Like, I cussed the family out. I wasn't accepting no type of responsibility. I wasn't remorseful, none of that. And that was largely in ignorance. But when I got out, I went back and I apologized. Nobody knew I was going to go do this. So, you know, a lot of the things that happened to me, what they would say, like, in a negative way, now I'm doing it, like, in a positive way. So I was a resident at Hillbrook. Now I work at Hillbrook. They did a mitigation report on me. Now I do mitigation reports on residents. So for me, it's like living life twice. That means that I could actually say that, like, I found my purpose. Like, this is what brings me joy. Like, helping the youth, like I said, showing them how to walk with purpose while they're incarcerated, or just showing a person how to, you know, even after you get out, how you still could walk with purpose. Because even though, you know, I was walking with purpose while I was incarcerated, I'm still walking with purpose while I'm out. So, you know, just to let them know that it don't stop just because you're in here. Like, you're going to have to take this same skill set and apply it basically on the outside. So for me, the living life twice thing is me discovering my purpose and wanting to show other people, you know, that we all got a purpose. Like this chair that I'm sitting in, like, its existence is justified because I'm sitting in it. This brush, its existence is justified because I can brush my hair. This bottle, existence is justified. Everything has a reason for existing. And I do, you do, everybody do. And I think that when you live life twice or whatever, that's when you starting to discover your purpose. Because I've met people who've been homeless. Now they actually running homeless facilities. So it's like, hey, man, what's the possibility of that happening? So I think that when people live a certain life and then relive that life in a positive way, they are now on to their purpose or whatever. So that's kind of like what the second book is about, is the unfolding of my purpose as it pertains to it being on display. And the residents, I have, you know, some of them that's going to be in the book, because I feel like by putting them in there, it gives them a chance to be a part of something. So even once they get out or while they're incarcerated, they have something to build on and go off of. And who knows, one day they might write a book or something like that. It's just all about each one, teach one. So, yeah. And hopefully, you know, I could get the book throughout OCFS so that other young men that's in the juvenile system could actually read it and, you know, learn from it. So that's kind of what that is. It's called Living Life Twice.
Can you talk a little bit about the documentary we are working on from your perspective? And I know we're collaborating on that, but I kind of want to have you talk about your motivations and what you hope to see from it.
So the documentary, like The Streets of Syracuse, like what I hope to see from it is change, bringing awareness that may have not been there before because of the different type of, I don't know, access that I have as it pertains to the streets of Syracuse. And I just feel like in a lot of ways, that type of information has to get out here, because what's going on in the streets, or the people who have the voices in the streets, are not talking. The people who are talking are the people who have no connection to the streets or no history or involvement in it at one point in their own living career. So My excitement is that I do have access to people who could bring out this information to where other people could learn from it, because we have to get ourselves out of this mess. So for me, putting it together and working with you, I think that it gives the community an opportunity to put the dots together as it pertains to the highs and lows of the lifestyle that is in the streets. And being from the streets is not always a bad thing. You gotta be street smart out here. Like, if you ain't street smart out here, like, a person will take advantage of you. They'll take advantage of you even in the business world if you don't have, like, some form of awareness. Like, that's just how it is, or street smarts. So street smarts is a great thing. So it's just about bringing, like, that awareness. And that's what I'm excited about, is that it has the ability, if done right, to be able to reach the masses, especially in Syracuse, and somebody's life could be changed from it. I know that. It's just about getting the information out there, because we have the information. It's just being hidden in the mind and in the hearts of people. But once they release it and let it out, it could really become a fresh breath of air for somebody. So that's what I'm excited about.
I know we were working on like a photo-driven documentary for a while, and now it's like manifested into like a film documentary. Mm-hmm. But we started that in 2000, I think 17, 18-ish, and I feel like in none of the work that I do have so many people who've been a part of it lost their lives along the way. You know what I mean? Like, we'll be interviewing someone one day, and then 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years later, they'll say, oh, that person lost their life in this situation or that situation. How do you kind of hold all of that loss and still move the way you move?
I think I hold it and then I let it go. I learned that. Like, I learned that about death. Like, you can't hold on to death. I don't know. Like, I just look at life in my own way. But I know I'm not the only person that think like this. But sometimes, like, death is not always bad. And it's a part of life. Like, you're going to live, you're going to die. And sometimes it's unfortunate, how people may pass away or make their transition. But a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, I'm not responsible for none of that. So I can't really harbor too much of that. I can't really grieve too much into that, because I'm not trying to die with you, not being selfish, or like, that's just how it is. Like, we live in a culture where, like, you could lose a loved one and you literally can drink yourself to death, or you literally can stress yourself to death. You literally can grieve yourself to death. Like, this is the stuff that comes off of the death culture. It ain't just people dying from an actual gun, but it's actually people dying from the effects of living with this stuff long after. I don't want to be like that, because I know that I experience a lot of death. I see a lot of stuff happen to a lot of people, or I hear about stuff that happens to people. And a lot of times I know these people. Like, I've been around these people. Like, I hugged these people. I spoke to these people. I ate with these people. Stuff like that. But I learned to, like, let it go, not even being disrespectful to it. It's just that I find a way to see the good in that person. I find a way to get the good out of that person's life, whatever they represented, and then I just live on that. And I just thank that person for, providing that. And I just let them know that, in my own secrecy in my mind, that I do the right thing. So if I have to speak on your behalf to say that, hey, listen, man, this man lost his life, that wasn't right, I give you that. But I can't die with you, because I still got a service to provide too.
What would you want to say to the world if you could tell the world one last thing or only one thing?
If I could tell the world one last thing, I would tell them that God is great, God is real, we all special, we all got a gift, and your gift is inside of you. And it's up to you to go inside yourself and find that gift. Nobody's gonna find the gift for you. You have to find that gift for yourself. People could assist you on your journey, but it's up to you to find your own gift. And when you find that gift, release it. Release it into the world. Release it into the universe. And make the planet a better place for humanity. So that's what I would tell people. Do the will of God. Do the greater good so that humanity could be good, so that this could be a safer place. Because, like, I believe in stuff like that. Like, I believe in having love for humanity and wanting humanity to win. But I also know that there's a lot of evil out here. But I also believe that evil would not prevail over good. So I would tell people to stay on the side of good, even though adversity might be at your door and it might seem like life ain't going your way. Just keep believing and believe in yourself and find yourself, work on yourself. And that's really all I got to tell the world is work on yourself, take care of yourself, and believe in God because God is real.
What do you want for our city of Syracuse?
Equal opportunity, because the reality is, like, when you look at it, there's a great disparity. Like, I don't know, they say, like, Syracuse is, like, number 3 in the country, like, far as poverty. That's disparity. Like, where is the equality? So, and I ain't just talking about, like, people will say, hey, you got to go out there, you got to get your own, and, nobody has to give you nothing and stuff like that. But people do create opportunities for their peoples. And I just feel like those same opportunities could be created for us, even from the people that's in position of power, but they may not look like us. I still feel like we should get some form of, like, equality or whatever. What I want for the city, I want these kids to have a safer environment to grow up in, because ain't nothing going on, like, in these inner cities. Like, this stuff is crazy out there. Like, you'll ride through these inner cities and you'll literally see these kids, I don't know, 10 seconds away from committing a crime. You wouldn't believe how many crimes I stopped just riding around. So I definitely would want for our streets to be better and the environment to be safer so that our, kids can grow up and just see a better life, because a lot of our young youth we're losing to the violence in here, or we're losing them to the prison system or the juvenile system. So I definitely want the streets to be better. And another thing I would want for them is to get, like, some spiritual institution. Like, do you know all the blood that has been shed? Like, I'm telling you, out of all the murders, all the trauma, all the headache, the drama that these families and people are experiencing, these people don't even get no counseling. They don't even get no place where, like, a spiritual center. There's no place where they can go in and get some type of healing. That's what I want for this city. I want healing for this city. We're not healed. That's just what it is. How? You got to think about that. How? If all this killing been going on, if all this wrongdoing been going on, let's just say since 2000, that's 23 years, there's not one place that the people, blacks, can go to in the inner city and get some type of therapeutic treatment for what they have basically endured. So I would want healing for this city. I would want healing for this city because I know a lot of people are not healed, and I know that hurt people hurt people. So the reason why a lot of people are getting hurt out here, because people are hurting. And the people that's in position, the people that are in power, I'm not blaming them or anything. I'm just saying that they're not at the forefront of addressing these issues like that because they have the resources, they have the financial, power to be able to create this space, and this space is not created. I mean, everybody else getting attention when something happens to them. I just feel like, we're not getting no attention, but this is something that is plaguing the community. You cannot help us if you don't want to provide us with some type of institution that is going to be able to provide us with some type of healing space. Ain't no yoga going on, ain't no acupuncture going on. It ain't even a space where you could go in and get something where it ain't even no environment. Where you gonna go? Anywhere you go, it ain't nothing but 5G towers and bald-headed trees. Ain't even no environment where trees at. There ain't no shade. The sun is on you all day. It's just crazy. So, yeah, I would want healing for this city.
I guess the last thing I would want to talk about with you today would be, you lost your cousin to violence about 3 months ago now, is that correct?
5.
5 months. And the young men that committed the crime are now up at Hillbrook, and I had asked you how I know you were very close to your cousin, how you can deal with that spiritually, mentally, and I thought your answer was very profound. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I really can't go into all the details or whatever because, truthfully, I can't even be around those young men or whatever. I'm in the process of trying to work something out, mediate and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm at a certain point in my life where I'm into forgiving. I'm into compassion and stuff like that. But I also realized I don't know if y'all did it or not. You ain't been sentenced or anything like that. So I don't really know what's going on with it like that. But what I've done though, because I do the program there and stuff like that, they can't come or whatever. But so residents have asked me oh, you gonna let them come to the program, Sully? Because they call me Sullivan, so my last name is Sullivan. So I don't know, I guess it's some Irish thing where they call you Sully. I know they used to call me that too, when I was in prison, the staff. That's the first people I ever heard me, I don't mean no disrespect, but white people, the only people that I ever heard call me Sully. I think it's something Irish or something like that. But, so they yo, Sully, what you gonna do about that? Or, because people is always trying to see how you gonna handle the situation, especially something like that, And I let them know that I don't have no problems with those young men. That's just what it is. If I seen them, I'm gonna give them a hug. And my job is just basically to be a big brother and provide positive information to them because I don't know. You just might have to go do 15 years. And if you do, I can't judge you because I did. I ended a life. So, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you could become. So, I would never stunt your growth. I would never try to, blast you or make it seem you're nothing because you may have done something. I don't know if you did it or not. But even if you did do it, it's still not my job to judge you, and I won't judge you. Only thing I could do is, be of support, especially in an environment like that, because you never know, the bonds that you could make or the message that you could give a person or anything like that. But it was kind of funny because when I spoke about it, I actually broke down in front of the residents and stuff like that. But they was touched by it because a lot of times when, a person is, going through something, especially like that, the connection that I had with, people are not in a forgiving space. Like, people want to see other people get hurt. People want to do wrong. People want to be mad at you. Like, I don't got time to be mad at nobody. Like, the real truth is, I'm 43 years old. I spent half of my life in prison. I'm trying to live the rest of my life out here in love, peace, and happiness. I don't got time to be mad at nobody because that's not going to do anything for me or whatever. So, yeah, I'm just at a place where I just got compassion in my heart. I sympathize, I empathize. And to be honest, if, they did do it, then, anybody that do wrong, I ain't the type to be like, oh, I don't wish jail on my worst enemy. Nah, bruh, you gotta go. I'm not getting into that. Because who gonna police you? Who's gonna stop you? Because you'll kill and then kill again. I've seen it. And I know people will be in environments and neighborhoods and they will bully people. They will make them be quiet. But meanwhile, they'll terrorize the neighborhood. No, somebody got to get you out of here because you won't do it yourself. You won't calm down. You won't stop disrespecting. So you got to go. Where else should you go? What, go to a rehab? No. You need to sit away from, listen, I believe that you should go away for a long. Jail changed me. It could change you. If it don't change you and you did all that wrongdoing, then I get that too. But you're not just gonna do all that and don't feel like you shouldn't have no consequences. Like, it's not, that's not right or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of how it is, Solon. But yeah, I don't have no strife like with those young men. Like, I just really wish that they would allow me to like talk to them and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just so I could just give them game on life. Like, I ain't trying to get in nobody else's way and make their life any more difficult. Like, I don't really got no reason to make your life any harder than it already is. Because if you did do it, I already know the suffering that comes with that. Most people don't know. Like, I know. Like, I would know. I don't got to judge you. You're going to judge yourself. I don't got to hurt you. You're already going to be hurt. I don't got to put you through pain. You're going to go through it. And if you're lucky, you'll overcome it. But the time that they giving out now for these type of charges and stuff like that, I don't know what's going to happen with you. But if it don't go your way, you're going to get 15 years or something like that. That's a long time in jail. Like, you're going to go through a lot. It's a lot of suffering that comes with that. So I ain't here to, like, really judge. I'm just trying to do the right thing. And who knows, maybe one day those young men to turn out like me. And if I could help that, like, I'd do that. And it ain't like I'm disrespecting my cousin or anything like that, because, like, these people, they'll try to do that. Like, in the streets, like, they'll try to be so tough or extra tough that they'll try to, like, stop you from thinking like that. They'll try to make you think like, oh, nah, that's your cousin. Nah, you can't like them. I ain't saying I gotta like somebody, but I'm not gonna sit there and be mean to a person either. I'm not doing nothing like that. I'm not wishing bad on nobody, but they will want you to do that, or they will try to look at you in a different light. So if you weak-minded or anything like that, you will let people control your perception and your feelings. I'm not doing that. I don't believe in seeking revenge on people or none of that. So it ain't really too much that people could say to me to, like, stop me from thinking like this. So that's kind of like, where I'm at with it. Like, my cousin know where I stand at and all this, because this is the type of stuff I was doing when he was alive, as it pertained to, wanting people to accept me and have remorse and, compassion for me. So I'm not finna sit up here and want that for myself and receive it from people, but then when it's my turn to show it, nah, I'm not gonna be a hypocrite like that. The same thing that helped me get through it, I'm gonna do the same thing. So that's where I'm at with it.
Do you have anything else that you want to say today?
Oh yeah, something else that I'm doing. Like, I'm working at Industry, or I'm not working at Industry Detention Center. I also have a program out there where I go out there twice a week and mentor young men that's out there. I do. So I actually have my program. I apologize also in Industry Residential Center. So even to the residents out there, like I'm connected to them too, or whatever. So like my journey is a good journey. It's a great journey, and that's what it's about. So what I would tell people in closing is find your purpose. Find something that you love doing, that comes natural for you, and pursue that. Because you can find some joy in that, and you can add some years to your life and take some stress off your heart.